All right, welcome everybody, and Freddie, of course, who is in chat. Freddie, welcome. First time being here on Late Night with Denny Cool. Much different, Freddie, than what you are used to from the Friday night shows. I can assure you that. Nonetheless, Freddie's our first here in chats. So, Freddie, thanks for joining me. Again, this is a totally different show, something that a lot of the members who are accustomed to seeing the Friday nights and being part of that are not used to. But it's different. It's a different take. It's not a different me, but it's a different side of me that a lot of you don't get to see and or hear. And so this is why I'm excited to do this. Freddie, you already know that I love to talk. I love to try to help people solve complex problems or figure things out, that being myself included. But I also love to listen to people in general. And that could be from general chat, conversations, just having open discussions. I find that to be so helpful. I say it all the time, even during the live shows. Welcome, Wanda. Nice to have you. Yeah, sorry I couldn't make it Saturday night, guys. I was just burnt out, to say the least. I was completely wiped out. And, of course, we are getting another storm this week. Not too bad, but, nonetheless, it pulls me away. So I try to dedicate as much time as I can to this, as well as, of course, Friday night, which, by the way, I guess this Friday, I left it up to John and Judy to come up with the theme, and I guess they are having a love theme for this Friday, so everybody is going to submit their love songs for Friday, Wanda. Yeah, it's... I said, listen, that's what you guys want to do. Have fun with it, right? I think love songs are great, Wanda. I think that, there's a lot of meaning behind them. Some are sad, but some are also very positive, too. I guess it depends on your experience, really, with the song, But it's a good thing. So this Friday on DCG Entertainment, which obviously is here, but on the live entertainment show, we are doing, from all the members, by the way, if you're not signed up, do so now. Become an email member. We are going to start doing members rewards month and awards, where the members will vote for other members. Once a month, we will be announcing a member that will win a prize from our online store. So we're pretty excited about that. You did a video with it? Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Yeah, we have quite a few submissions in, and it's only Monday. So that tells me, guys, that this Friday night on our live entertainment show, we are going to have quite the extended features on there. I should just... It's a 2-hour show, right? But really, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Like, I want to have a 2.5-hour show. I know it's tough for a lot of people because they can't stay up that late. But at the same time, it's like I have to rush through everything, and I don't like doing that. I like to, as you guys know, comment, really engage in whoever is singing the song. You know what I'm saying? But it's tough, man. Freddie, you co-hosted one night, so, it's kind of tough to squeeze it all in there when you have one person doing it. And on top of that, I'm not just doing the dialogue, I'm running everything, right? So squeeze all that in when you got 20 plus features in there. It's kind of tough. So I'm thinking about just doing a 2.5-hour show, especially when we have more than 20 artists. Yeah, I think a 3-hour show is perfect. I mean, that's what this podcast is, right? The Talk Podcast. But it's tough because, again, you're dealing with people from around the world, literally. You know, we have members spread out throughout the world, not to mention our regular viewers, too. The actual subscribers who are not email members. We get over 100 plus email members alone. Now, imagine if 80% of the email members submitted songs. We couldn't do it on a Friday night. We'd have to either split it up, or we would have to do like a 4-hour show. It'd be insane. It really would. Yeah, it does, Wanda. It does make it difficult, but it's you know, it's cool. I love doing it. You know what I mean? So I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I was gonna put the fireplace. I was trying to find a fireplace that fit, and I can design a background through the programs I have. It's a cool background where what you do is it's designed basically, see, this is my dilemma. So a lot of what people see on YouTube with all these cool backgrounds and stuff, a lot of that is pre-recorded. So I could do all of that, right? And I could design my own background and stuff. When you're doing it live, it's a little bit tough because I'm changing scenes all the time. And so for me, I'd have to pre-record the show, edit the backgrounds, and, you know, place it. And I can do all that stuff. But when you're doing it live, it's not as easy, right? So that's the trick you run into. Yeah, hosting is a lot of fun. You know, when you're talking, you're introducing the artist and stuff. It is fun. It's weird. Like, until you do it, you don't really understand it. But when you do it, the first couple minutes, maybe 10 minutes, it's a little nerve-wracking because you want to get things right and you don't want to mess up. But when you start getting into it, you know, you get relaxed. You start becoming familiar with it. And then you just have a lot of fun. And I think, in my opinion, that it really helps people who do it to kind of overcome that fear, that stage fright, if you will, or camera fright, right? So I still have it every show, even on this show, believe it or not. Excuse me. Yeah, we're going to have some more hosting coming up with members and stuff like that. Actually, right now I'm working on Judy, Eagles Flight. She was the next in line, and then after her, I think, is Bill Bartlett. And I go according to the submissions of emails. Of course, so Judy, we're working on her solo album, her cool covers, and then after that, it'll be Bill. Judy's is almost done. Once hers is released, then I'll go to Bill and whoever is next in line and stuff like that. It takes a while because I like to do it right. I want the quality to be there. You know, I want it to sound good. But anyways, tonight, the main title is called Direction. But if you read the description, it's Direction, Attitude, and Will. And I kind of touched on it, I think, on my very first episode. And I liked it so much. My first episode was a little tough. I was kind of feeling things, finding my way through. And again, all this is live. What I do is I'll research information that I think is relevant to what I want my content to be. And then I'll skim through it. And then I'll add my opinion, my thought to it. And even though this stuff here, as great as the information is that I get, believe it or not, there's a lot that I disagree with on, whether it be philosophies, opinions, even if they're from notable, you know, whether it be a college or research or whatever. And it's not saying that I'm better or I'm smarter than wherever the study and research is coming from. Obviously, they have polls, they have stats. They do research with probably hundreds, if not thousands of people. But there's still, in my opinion, and we all have that right to agree or disagree, right? But in my opinion, I think that there's a lot of information out there. A lot of it's great, but at the same time, a lot of it can be harmful. And so I try to decipher the information that's there and then add my own, input or common sense that I think is beneficial. But that's just me. Yeah, it's my personal touch. But at the same time, too, I think I'm going to give you an example. All right, here's an example. And for everybody else watching or who's going to watch, if you watch any type of, well, they call themselves influencers. Now, some have referred to me as an influencer, and I guess that's key for, like, if you're a content creator, you have a YouTube channel and stuff. I don't know. I guess you'd have to break that down so I could really grasp the concept of that, because to me, to influence means you persuade or you sway somebody's thinking or thought and or attitude. And I understand that, but a lot of them are self-proclaimed influencers. And so when you watch some of this stuff, it says influencer, and some of them have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers and views and stuff, and I don't get it. Because when I watch it, I don't see the raw optimism in a lot of the videos. I guess I'm different, and maybe that's why I don't have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I don't know. I mean, I'm just starting the Talk podcast. Even with our show, our live entertainment show on Friday nights, that's all organic driven. And as I explained, it's very hard to define what our shows are all about on Friday nights because they're so diverse, right? You can't just put a couple keywords in there and that explains everything. It's not. And don't forget, a lot of these shows are pre-recorded, 90% of them. And a lot of them are paid, But these content creators, too, to their credit, you've got to boost out just content, man, all the time. And some of it is so ridiculous and stupid that that's really what gets likes and stuff. It makes no sense to me. I still won't understand it. I like pureness. I like purity. I like realism. What's the word I'm looking for? I love stuff that is just genuine, that comes from the heart, right? About how you feel. I love real people. I don't like fake stuff. And I don't want to do something just to get likes or just to get, like, numbers up there. Our stats will get there. We've been growing over periods of time, and it's getting there. But to get back to the influences, if you ever listen to a lot of what these people say, the messaging in there, not all, but a vast majority out of it, and listen, I'm not knocking it. If that's your bag, that's your bag. But when you listen to a lot of it, the content in there, it's all about the money. It's all about succeeding in life as, financial gain, power, advancing yourself, which is nothing wrong with that. However, the underlining of all of that is when you look into what it is that these people are inspiring you to do, or what you need to do, a lot of it is basically cut somebody else off at the knees, right? Trample all over people. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. So basically, do one to others as you don't want done to yourself, but do it to them first, right? So it's taking advantage of the others to get ahead. Who has the most, who's the most powerful. And again, if that's somebody's bag, hey, I'm not knocking them. Hold on, guys. Drop my famous pen here. But if that's their bag and if that's what they want to do, I'm not knocking it. But for me, I'm not about that. And I think that if that's somebody's inspiration, and if they feel that that's what they have to do to be successful in life, then I feel bad. Nothing wrong with making money. Nothing wrong with wanting to be better as far as whether it's your job or accelerating in business or anything of that. Nothing wrong with that. But how do you get there and how you do it? That's the key takeaway for me. You know, years ago, I'm sure you guys can relate to this, and it still exists, but it's not as promoted as much as it used to be. Very few do it, but working hard, being honest, treating others with respect, you know. And today, again, I said it. Yeah, you work hard, but you work hard for yourself and only for yourself. So anybody along the way, they're either with you or against you. And that's kind of the messaging. And again, you know, it's sad, but again, that's that's just my opinion. And you're right, it's all about being honest, Freddie and Wanda. Yep, all natural. I agree. I get this little, you get that little tickle in your throat sometimes. It's like this. And I got it from being out in the storms. You know, it's just this little tiny tickle, little irritant. It's gone away a lot. But because it's so dry now because of the winter, the air is just like dry. You know? And then when it gets so cold, when you breathe in it, it like sucks your breath right out of you. You know, and then it leaves you with this little tickle in your throat. I hate that. Yeah, that's what it does. Eating frog legs. It is about being honest. And here's what I did. Okay. Again, I love to research and everything else. Now, it's pretty cool because I don't use Google and stuff to research. I have different methods of doing it. A lot of times I read from material that I have. A lot of my stuff, which people laugh, but I will back it, compare it, and put it against anything out there in existence. Not getting scriptural on anybody, guys, but none other than the scriptures themselves. If you read a lot of the guidance and instruction, if you will, in there, whether it's about honesty, integrity, morality, okay, you compare that, written over 3,000 years ago, to a lot of the wisdom today, it still stands. They just, what they do is, over generations and generations, they change, they add, they change, they add, because all that's old, it's fable, it doesn't apply to us today. Okay, well, that's your opinion. I think it does. You know, respect your neighbor, love one another, be honest, loyal. It has all those great things in there. But a lot of people think it doesn't apply to them, and that's fine. I happen to think it does. Now, what I did is I looked up. I wanted to find out about motivation, about will, about attitude, because we all know, without having to get into all the deep sap of everything, right? Man, that tickle's going to drive me nuts. I was contemplating on doing it tonight, but I'm like, you know what? I have to. I got to push forward. So I wanted to find out, are there any stats or worldly opinions and views as to... Oh, Freddie said something here. Freddie says it does apply to today and into the future too. Wanda replied and said it does. You're absolutely right. Guys, you know what, you guys got me, man, you got my brain thinking it. I so bad wanted to do a show, but I thought about it. I said no, because it will come across, unless my deliverance is spot on, and how I word it, phrase it, the attitude, everything has to be perfect, or else people will take it as being preachy. But I literally wanted to do a whole show just based on scriptural content. But sometimes, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't want to give off the impression that that's what I'm doing, right? So I use it in a lot of my talking, speak, even on Friday nights. If you guys listen to a lot of what I say, I will reference a lot of times scriptures, and I even quote them sometimes. It's just what happens is, because I do it in a conversation and I don't specifically point it out, people hear it, but they're not pointing it out. But to do a show based off of that, I like to reference it and use a lot of my guidance and common sense based off of it. So you're kind of doing it without doing it. It's like hiding it, but in plain sight. Now, again, I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of it. I just don't want to make it about that specifically. I want it to be open and honest, right? So it's tough. You know, you got to just, I don't know, have different dialogue, but say what you want, but do it respectfully. Don't do it pushy, and don't jam things down people's throats. Say your opinion without forcing your opinion. Get your point across without drilling it home, but be delicate, but be forceful. So it's a very, very tightrope to walk. But yeah, they are. I agree with you. See, Freddie said people are always going to try and interpret their own way. That happens a lot. But you know what I did is I said, what in today's thinking, today's standards, what causes people to lack self-motivation or the will to thrive? Now, when I use the word thrive, that means you as a person to go on, to move forward, to pick yourself up, dust yourself off when you make a mistake, or when you're not doing so well, or you feel that everything's crumbling around you, right? Where is that self-motivation? Where is that burn to thrive, right? To be a better version of yourself, but at the same time, to do it from within you, if that makes any sense. And I'll get to it in a little bit. So when I looked that up, I was surprised. Here are some of the things. Now, I'll use, believe it or not, I mean, Freddie, Wanda, but probably not as much as Freddie, maybe. I don't know. I'm surmising here, but AI, in a lot of aspects, is great for doing research. Like if you're using ChatBGT or other things. I know there's several others out there, but I use ChatGPT for different things, and then I'll cross-reference it with some other sites just to kind of get a better understanding of what the general consensus is, and their theories and thoughts and all that stuff, right? So I wanted to know, on a scale, right, basically either within the United States, globally, whatever, why do people lack self-motivation or the will to thrive? Well, here's some of what I got as far as explanations and answers. And then as I go through them, I'm going to add to it. And I'll, try watching the chats as we go. But I'll try to add to it. One of them is low mental or physical energy. It says that, Now, this I do believe. Hands down, I believe this. So, chronic stress. I think stress, and this can be backed up by research, by studies. Stress is like the number one cause of pretty much, you think of it A through Z, right? Stress is just, it's the weight of all weights. It is the elephant in the room, okay? Poor sleep, bad diet, burnout. I laugh at that one because it happens to me sometimes. Depression, hormone issues, or even low iron. I have quite the opposite. My body produces too much iron. Can quietly drain drive. So it can lower the drive. When your system, when it's in survival mode, the thriving, as it says, it feels unrealistic, right? The brain shifts from growth to protection. That makes a lot of sense. I've studied a lot about the brain. I studied a lot about the subconscious, about the conscience, about all that stuff. So that to me makes sense. Think about it. When you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're worrying about something, right? You're anxious about tomorrow, or whatever problems you're facing. It is difficult, and it feels impossible to go from point A to point B. It's almost like you can't put one foot in front of the other. And it could be for any reason, small, large, medical, financial, whatever it is. You feel as if you can't move forward because instead of the brain being active, motivated, and enthusiastic, what's happening is you become exhausted mentally and physically. So, when you become exhausted, what happens? The brain kicks into a shield. That shield now goes into protective mode, right? It's almost as if a computer has a virus. Something from the outside is trying to get in, and the antivirus says, nope, I'm going to shut all of the main components down. I need to protect the component in this board, that being the hard drive. I need to protect that from any type of virus, malware, or whatever it is. Well, contrast, your brain works the same way. So when all of these things are going on, you're burnt out, you're tired, you're anxious, you're depressed, you're sleep deprived. Your brain says, I have to protect you. Like it or not, we are shutting everything that is not important down. And I have to replenish you. So it goes from growth to protection mode. So all of that stimulation, that motivation, it kind of subsides, right? And then you just feel like, ugh. You want to sleep. A lot of times you'll find yourself just sitting there going like this. That's lack of motivation. And it's not always something that you're aware of. Subconsciously, you may be worried about something, or your body could just be exhausted, wiped out, and you may not be aware. You may think consciously that everything's Hakuna Matata. But the most powerful part of your brain, the subconscious part, is just on overdrive. It's got that constant problem nagging you. So it's forcing everything else to shut down. And now you're just sitting there like a lump on the log. You don't feel motivated. You have no ambition, right? So that's one reason for low mental or physical energy. It's tough. Having balance is tough. Freddie says, I strive for work-life balance. He does not take work home when he's done. He always tries to find something positive in every positive in everything and to share with others and everything. Yep, I got you there, Freddie. Wanda concurs. She said, AJ used to tell her that all the time. But see, now, Freddie, that's a very good point of what you're saying, and that's a good thing to practice, right? Here's the tricky thing for a lot of people, though, okay? What you said is right, and it's a good thing to do that. The hard part, though, is a lot of people can't even get to that point. I'm going to take half of what you said and split it. You strive for work-life balance. Okay? Many do. You don't take the work home with you when you're done. Many try. And you always try to find something positive in everything and to share that with others. Many can't. So do, try, and can't. The do is that people do. They strive for the work, the life, the balance, right? Many do. Several don't when they try separating the work and the home. And many can't when they try to find something positive in everything and to share that with others. And that may come easy for, say, Freddie, or that may come easy for Wander or other people out there. And let's be honest, it's a tough thing to do. Because whether it's if you work from home or you travel, you're surrounded by constant bombardment of negativity, right? Unless you just tune everything out of your life and you have no connection with anything outside of your home. I call it your bubble, okay? And you listen to and watch nothing but positive messaging, affirmations, whatever it is you want to call it. And then you're a drill sergeant in your own mind. You're drilling that brain of yours that today is awesome. I'm going to be awesome. I'm a good person. I'm deserving of this. I do this, that, and the other. And I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And you consistently do that. Well, you are the 1%er that can do that every day. Probably less than 1%. But there are people who just, they find it so difficult to do that. Wanda says, in my line of work, it's hard when you can't get it out, so I would bottle it up, then have a breakdown because you're actually not allowed to talk about it. See, that's the other thing. Think about that, guys. That is so tough. I'm going to move on to the clear purpose. That actually ties into what I'm going to say next. When you're at work, right? I remember when I was younger, my mom, just going back, I was 14. She got me a job at her company. She was the vice president of this electronics company. I was like 14 years old. Probably 15, or I just dropped out of school at 15 and a half. I hated school. Me and school didn't get along. But she said, well, during the summer, you need a job. Okay. Well, it was a big company. I learned how to assemble electronic chips, diodes, resistors, all that stuff. Now, back then, you could smoke in the lunchrooms. People were just talking about anything. It didn't matter. You could just carry on a conversation. And of course, they all had their own little niche. One group was with one group and so on and so forth. You had the engineers at one table. You had the front office at another table. Then you had the regular workers at one table, right? The VPs and stuff, they'd be in a different room. Point was, you'd hang out, you'd talk. It didn't matter. You'd rag on each other. You'd tell jokes. It was a different type of conversation. Today, I mean, I haven't been in that type of work environment for many, many years, but today, not so much, right? To Wanda's point, you got to kind of, you be careful what you talk about, careful how you say things. One word can get you in trouble, whether it's intended to be directly insulting or just as a pun or gesture, right? Or a lot of times, people don't want to hear it. They just don't want to listen to what you have to say. Why is that? Because the self-interest. If it doesn't include them, if it's not about them, they're not benefiting from it. The only time I find now that, and I know this because I've said it before, I have a buddy who, when he calls me, I listen, but it's just sometimes it's tough because when I give him the best opinion or advice that I can, and a lot of times he'll call me specifically for advice, and I tell him all the time, look, I'm not a counselor, but if you're asking me my opinion, and then when he's done, if he doesn't like what I have to say or I don't agree to his side or his way of thinking, it's an instant, listen, I got to go. Every single time. And that's okay. I don't have to agree with him and vice versa. But a lot of it is because what he wants is he wants to be fed drama. He wants the... he wants me to side with the anger of what he's feeling. He wants the drama, the scoop, if you will, right? He embellishes in that. And I don't feed into it. I'm not promoting that. I'm not about drama. Yeah, sometimes it's fun. Sometimes, I don't care who you are, you get involved, you get wrapped up in something. And like you want to hear the gossip, you want to hear the juice, right? Inquiring minds want to know, as they used to say. But for the most part, it's so negative, and it serves no purpose in your life to do that. And so he typically ends the conversations. And at work, it's especially harder because now people are just so divided with opinions, thoughts, or other that it's very, very, very tough to even have a normal, civilized conversation about something so simple. Yeah, I'm reading what you guys are saying, what you guys are putting down. It's interesting because a lot of what you guys are commenting about is almost as if like I kind of gave you the backstory before the show, and I didn't. But you guys are typing pretty much a lot of what I researched. I'm going to give you an example. Freddie says he's become more reserved over the years to put up a shield. We just literally got done talking about that with your brain and all that stuff. But more to his point is that's what happens. People do that, whether it's at work. Wanda just said that. Wanda says, sadly, 2 marriages were exactly as that, but she came out a survivor. See, that's the point of it. Now, again, I mean, you guys know me. I'm no expert, and I watch these other shows, and it's sad because I think a lot of people take away from things. There's such thing as lying to yourself when it comes to being positive. And you may say, well, how do you lie to yourself if you're thinking positive? Because you can. You can fool yourself. You can trick yourself. You can lie to yourself. And you can pretend to change. You can pretend to be positive. You can pretend to be motivated. But it's all BS. Because it's not real. It's synthetic. And so when something like that is synthetic, and it's not genuine, it's not self-driven, it's just a cover, it's smoke and mirrors, you're doing yourself more damage because the letdown is that much worse. It's like when you watch these videos or you hear about the universe giving back and stuff. Now again, hey, people want to believe that. That's cool. I'm not knocking it. But when it doesn't happen, right, and your expectations, they raise the bar up here, that if you put out this to the universe gives back, and this, listen, again, if that helps somebody to get out of a situation mentally, okay. But here's the trick, though. When you lie to yourself, the way you do that is that you don't follow through with it. You can say whatever it is you want. You can convince yourself of whatever it is you want. But if you don't take action and put those thoughts and words into motion, it's a huge disappointment. And then what happens? You let yourself down. The whatever it is didn't yield to your highest expectations as you thought they were. So because it didn't, you get discouraged. And that's a letdown. And that letdown is so hard because now you're like, I did all these things. I talked positive. I was happy to people. I was saying happy things. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not how it works. It's a start to openly express positive things, to say positive things, right? To tell yourself aloud, not just in your head, but aloud, to talk positive and everything. That's great. It's not bad. But if you don't follow through with it by action, by putting those words into motion, right? I said it before, it's like sitting in front of your fireplace and saying, give me heat, but you don't put a log there. Well, you can say you want heat all day long. That doesn't do anything. It's great that you want heat. But if you don't go out and do the hard work, put it into motion by getting the logs to start the fire, guess what? You ain't having heat. It just doesn't light by itself. And that's the same exact thing. You can say and talk positive all day long, and that's great. But if you don't put that talk into action, there's no change. You're just doing the same thing over and over again. You're repeating false hope to yourself. And then when it doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen the way you want it to happen, you get let down. And then that discouragement kicks in, and you feel hopeless, and you feel like a loser and everything else. Depression sits in. So all I'm saying is, start off small, right? Do baby steps. You don't have to achieve everything in one day. You're not going to be a grandmaster in a week. Start off small. Change one little habit that probably isn't good for you. And that could come from thinking or doing something maybe you're not happy with. It doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's getting up a little bit earlier. Maybe it's watching different entertainment. Maybe it's disassociating yourself with that person who is nothing but negative, right? So cut it back a little bit. Take the time, do little by little, and then when you succeed at that, then do a little bit more. And yes, actions speak louder than words. That was the whole point behind it. But does that make any sense that even though you're saying it, which is great, it's to be commended, because there are people that just kidding, like, I'm happy. Yeah. Hey, have a good day. All right. Yeah, man. Cool. I know people like that. Like, yeah, that's, hey, yeah. And, And you guys know me, and I mean, again, when I do a show, it's different, right? The live shows, they excite me. It's like me being a kid all over again. I've already explained all that. Personally, my home life, my everyday life, just like you guys, I have stresses. You know, I have things that I can't control. I face hardships like everybody else, you know, and sometimes it affects me, and but a lot of times I've trained myself, and I stumble, and I'll fail many times, and then what I do, like, okay, well, that didn't work out so well, kind of skimmed up my knee on that one. Next time I might bang my head a couple times, but you do it again. And you may fail again. So what? Get up and do it again. Because when you just sit there and say it and you don't do it, you can lie to yourself, guys. And again, I hate to sound like a broken record, man, but I'm speaking from experience. I tried it. I tried laying in bed thinking all these happy tunes like I was in, hanging out with Mr. Rogers. Wouldn't you like to be my neighbor? For me, I mean, I don't know. It may have worked for other people. I don't know. I've never seen an actual story or read something that that testimony was like, you know what? And I love audio stuff. Like, I love laying down, listening to positive affirmations and binaural beats. I actually make binaural beats. You guys know that. I have the programs to do that. I haven't done it, but I need to. And so I listen to different wavelengths, frequencies, and stuff that I personally believe do stimulate certain parts of your brain. But even with that, you know, and of course, I read my scriptures, I do my prayers and all that stuff, and I try to be consistent with going to my meetings and reading and studying. But it doesn't mean that I'm not vulnerable or susceptible to things that are happening around me. It just means that I apply the effort. I take the step to put my words into actions. Not the best sometimes at it, but sometimes it's like winning the lottery. Yeah, Freddie says no one is perfect, not even close to it. But he says, I try to look in the mirror every day and think, how can I make myself better than yesterday? See, now that's good. Now let me give you a perfect example of what Freddie just said. Let's pretend for a second. Now, we all know Freddie, well, all the members do. And I've had conversations with Freddie. He's very optimistic. You know, Wanda, same way. But let's just say Freddie just was faking it. I don't know, I'm taking him at his word, right? So let's just say Freddie fakes the optimism. And when you're done talking with him, or he's not in the video or whatever, he becomes this pessimistic Freddie. Not the optimistic Freddie, but he becomes the pessimistic. So in front of camera and in chats, Freddie is this optimistic dude. Onward and upward, as I say, right? That's Freddie to everybody else. But to Freddie, he's not. These are just words that Freddie says. It's a false pretense. It's a facade to himself. Now, it's great to encourage and build up the people around him or who are watching, listening, and everything else. But guess who gets let down? Freddie. See, because now Freddie has built up this image of glorifying his attitude, right? And then at the end of the day, Freddie looks at himself, like he just said, in the mirror, and he's like, oh, I just wish I could be that person that I portray myself to be. Now, again, this is just I'm making this up using an analogy. Let's just say that was Freddie. Well, in Freddie's personal life, right, it's not going to work out so well for him because he's building himself up in front of everybody to put on the show, but behind the scenes, he's miserable, he's depressed, he's not motivated and everything else, right? He does it, and it's good for everybody else because they're benefiting from the positivity that Freddie is portraying. But the only one suffering is Freddie. You see what I'm trying to say? And people do that. They give themselves false hope, and they don't follow through with action. But you're never going to know if you can get there mentally if you don't follow through with it. And that's one of the main things that I try to tell people. And I do that to myself, right? Sometimes I think I put more pressure on myself than really is needed. And that's something I have to work on. We all have, like Freddie said, nobody's perfect. We all have flaws. And you're right. You're absolutely right. People, I just learned this. I knew it, but I learned this not too long ago, like very recently, okay? Certain people that I was trying to help mentally were, advising them in ways that was helpful, motivating them and everything. And it was pure motivation. It was heartfelt motivation. It came from experience. I don't say things, just so everybody knows, I don't say things to people or tell people things unless I personally myself have been through it. And I would never advise somebody or encourage somebody to do something unless I personally haven't experienced it on one level or the other. But I learned, that what I was doing, it didn't yield any fruit. What it did was it came back to bite me in the ass. Because to Freddie's point, they took advantage of that. They took advantage of me taking my time for them. And you know what? It was at first, it was disappointing. I almost felt like I was robbed. Like somebody personally robbed me. But then I realized, and it took me, I'm not gonna lie to you, it took me, several weeks to finally get out of my system that, you know what? I did right by these people. I did my best for them. And this, because of one stupid thing, they got upset. But because it didn't align with what they wanted. And I was just baffled at it, and I kept blaming myself. Like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So we all fall victim to that. Yeah, sometimes you can go out of your way to help somebody, but be warned. There is nothing wrong when you realize that your kindness is being taken advantage of. There's nothing wrong. It doesn't make you a bad person to step away and to stop. It doesn't. A lot of times people, and I've had this said to me, well, you got to be the bigger person. Yeah, that's why I'm pulling away. That's why I'm not doing it anymore. I am the bigger person. Because if they're taking advantage of me, and the more I keep doing, am I really helping them, or am I enabling them? If they're taking advantage of me, and the only thing they want out of me is whatever it is I can provide, whether that's motivation, in some cases for other people, it may be money or whatever. Things happen sometimes. People, we all have done it. I don't care who you are. You will, at one point in your life, throughout your life, unintentionally, whether you have to survive or you do it unintentionally, whatever it is, you will lie to somebody, you will use somebody, and you will manipulate somebody throughout your life. Many people. Again, it may not be intentional, but you do it for various reasons without knowing it. Okay? But then when you realize you're doing it, if you don't stop and you intentionally use and hurt people, and you know you're doing it, then that's when you need to stop. And if you don't, then you're in the wrong. But so to be the bigger person and just ignore somebody's ignorance and continue to do it, well, that's not being the bigger person. Now you're just not using common sense, you're not protecting yourself, and you're allowing yourself to get hurt and be susceptible for more of that abuse. And I can tell you right now, it doesn't feel good. And again, you're not truly helping the people or that person. You're actually enabling them to continue to do what they do. Because when they're done with you, they're going to move on to the next person. Right? That's their thought process. Yeah, Wanda, you did. Yeah, you said it on the last episode or the one before that. I think it was in the last episode, episode 2, that you lived in that environment for almost 40 years. Freddie said that he was quiet, reserved most of his life to protect himself, but he got more secure as he got older. Isn't that cool? A lot of people feel insecure, right? And matter of fact, let me read this to you. So the lack of meaning or clear purpose. It actually touches a lot of what you guys are just typing out there. People don't naturally push hard for goals, okay? They don't emotionally connect with, people, right? But if someone is chasing what they think they should want, whether that be money, status, approval, motivation fades fast. Now, I said that in my monologue. I was talking about alleged influences. When people were watching them, I said the hidden message is what? Money, status, power, or whatever, approval, glorification. So when they're chasing those things, your motivation fades fast. And I found this interesting. The brain responds more strongly to, guess what Denny Cool said earlier? Personal, meaningful goals. What I say earlier? I'm all about something that's heartfelt, it's genuine and authentic. I mean, guys, you know what? I should have stuck with therapy. I really should have. I took those courses years ago. I actually have books on the stuff. I disagree with a lot of it, but never too late if I wanted to. But I couldn't. I couldn't be a licensed counselor, right? Just like years ago when I was studying law and stuff. I still love law to this day, but I helped a lot of people out with different things, and I was a non-legal advisor. I didn't need to be an attorney, depending on what subject it was in law. I wasn't probably as good as the average attorney, but I wasn't that bad either. I did a lot of great things, but I was a non-legal advisor. So I wonder if you can be a non-licensed counselor. You know what my original name of the podcast was going to be? Can you guys take a guess as to what the name of this podcast was going to be? Anybody? Okay, well, I'll tell you. I know you guys are just scratching your heads. What is it? Well, check this out. It was going to be Dr. Cool. Yeah. And I was going to set it up so where I'd have laid back on the couch with a chair like this, have the camera set up, the microphone here, just like you see in the movies or TV or whatever. But the podcast was going to be Dr. Cool. And then I said, well, I don't know if I can use doctor. So I'm like, well, I want to talk. I want people to talk to me. Then I said, what about if I change it? I put some lingo in there. What if I said talk to? As in talk to, replace doctor with talk to cool. Talk to Denny Cool. You know, but kind of mix it so it sounded like doctor. And then I was going to change it and make it DOCTA. Denny Cool. And I said, nah, that just, yeah, it didn't sound right. It sounded like I was being full of myself, you know. So I said, nah, late night's good, because then it covers everything. I can talk about pretty much anything I want to. I'm not narrowing it down. And I want people to think that, you know, oh, who's this guy claim to be? Doctor? You know, next thing you know, guys, we got no more channel left. I'm being sued for false advertising or false claims. Excuse me. I gotta take a sip of my little cough medicine. Well, it's funny, Wanda, because I won't mention names, but I've had quite a few members email me and stuff, and ask me several things and stuff, and said that if I were to ever do a show like this or whatever and stuff, that they would love to listen and or call in, but they wouldn't want to give their names. Or sometimes, not just members, but I have a lot of people that will either call or email, you know, and ask me if I can call them, or sometimes just, you know, give them some advice. And I'll tell you this, I love doing it, but it depends on what it is, I'll be honest with you. I don't like to, and I stay away from any type of relationship advice, marriage advice. I definitely don't do that unless it's about one's self, right? Unless it's about them and their willingness to change themselves as a person, but not include their spouse. You know, I don't do that. I just think that, and I've never been a fan of that type of therapy personally. Or you have to be very, very careful. Yeah, Freddie, last show we had, I opened up the phone line, and typically I usually announce it in the email. That's usually on a Wednesday night and a Saturday night. I have the live call-ins. So this show is Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And then, of course, we got our, you know, show on Fridays, right? And then we have the offline karaoke that Judy does on the Zoom. So she's, you know, she's doing all that. But, yeah, Wednesday night, I will be having the open line. People can call in, talk. They can stay anonymous. Doesn't matter, right? You know, they can burst out their emotions if they want. They can talk about things or whatever. Doesn't matter. But it's open lines on Wednesdays. So it's a lot of fun. You know what? I'll tell you, my first marriage, I went to... I had an amazing counselor. She was an older woman. And back then, I was in my early 20s. I was about 22, 23. I started a cleaning business. I incorporated in 2 years. I grew it into just a humongous. I had like 14 people working for me and stuff. And I was 23 when I started it. I incorporated by the time I was 25. The business itself was making a ton of money. I had big name accounts. Anyways, so I was out of the house a lot, you know. I was never home. My daughter was 5. and the marriage took a toll, as rightfully it would if both aren't strong participants. But point being is, we both had faults and no one was perfect. But we went to this counselor and I said, listen, I don't know. I said, in my opinion, if I have to go see a third person to tell me what I'm doing wrong or you're doing wrong or what I can change different to make my marriage last, then it's not worth it. Then there's a problem. And that was my opinion. It doesn't mean that it is for everybody. It doesn't mean it's not for everybody. That was just my opinion. When we went to counseling, the irony of it all was the counselor basically said to my ex-wife, she goes, I'm hearing that what you're complaining about, she goes, she didn't use the word complaining. She said concerns, I think it was. She goes, is that he's running the business. She goes, and when he comes home, you want his full undivided attention, this, that, and the other. And she goes, you have to be willing to sacrifice one thing, and you have to be willing to sacrifice the other thing, and then Denny, you have to be willing to do the same thing. You need to put time aside for this, that. And she wasn't wrong, but see, I already knew that. These were things I've already spoken with my ex-wife about. I said, there's gonna be sacrifices. You want these things in life. Now, back then, again, I was young. I was just, like snot in a hoe handle, man. I was slippery, dude. I was like, go get him, go get him. But I already understood all that. I knew that a lot of the problems were stemming from me not being around. When you own a business, and my business was a cleaning business, and I had major accounts, I get called up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd have to go, But what I always found amazing was that the money was never an issue. Things were never an issue. There were no complaints about that stuff. It was just complaints about the time, about time together, spending time with your family. And they rightfully were legitimate complaints. But see, I was young, and I knew that that was the problem, but I didn't know how to separate that. I couldn't figure out, well, if I'm doing all of this, then what's your problem? Because you're not complaining about the brand new car you're driving. You're not complaining that you don't have to work. You're not complaining that you're going here, going there. You know what I'm saying? So in my mind, my immature mind, my thought process was, well, in a couple more years, I can just sell the company. But ultimately, we ended up in divorce. And of course, there were various things that added to it, but I didn't agree with doing that with a third party. I've always been the type that if you're having a problem in a relationship with a marriage or whatever it is, it should be something that you should both work out together amicably, or talk to an outside person, somebody that's not your friend and somebody that's not the other person's friend, but somebody that you both know, right? Whether you can vent to this person and express yourself, even getting that off your chest. And they may have something to say to you that maybe it was said to you before by your spouse, but you just didn't listen to it because to you it sounds like nagging. So sometimes I think that trying to go at it different ways helps, right? But I was never one to sit down, go to therapy over that. I just found it useless. That was my opinion. I always felt that if I want things to work and if this person wants things to work, we're going to make it work. And just because we faced hard times doesn't mean you give up. But both have to want it. You can't just have one person sacrificing all the time, right? And one person just constantly takes and the other person just gives. It doesn't work that way. Both have to equally want it to work, right? And so that was just my whole take on that stuff. you know, yeah, sometimes it's kind of like a chiropractor, right? You guys ever been in one of those? I like going to massage therapy. See, massage therapy is ideal. It's kind of the same thing as I was just talking about. You kind of work your problems out slowly, you figure it out. You go to a chiropractor, it's like the scariest thing in the world. I felt worse leaving. He's like, oh, that's typical. I'm like, no, dude, it ain't typical. You took my neck, you put your hand on the bottom of my chin, held the top of my neck, and said, don't tense up. Well, you can snap my neck. He paralyzed me. And then he's cracking every bone in my body. And I'm a thin guy, you know. And I'm like sitting there saying to myself, this is uncomfortable. And I felt worse. That's kind of like the same thing with therapy. I just felt worse. I'm like, she was great on a one-on-one with me. She did great. But as an intervention for a third party in a marriage, it's like I was going to the chiropractor. No, I want it massaged. I want it, address it slowly, methodically, massage the problems out, right? If you want it to work bad enough, both, and this is with anything, this is with a friendship, this is with parenthood, kid, whatever. When you want it to work bad enough, it's going to. But both have to be willing to sacrifice. Both have to be willing to give. Both have to be willing to take. Right? That's just the bottom line of it. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm sure a lot of professionals out there, if they were watching, they'd probably be like, oh, man, this kid, don't listen to him. Do, don't, whatever. I'm not here to force my opinion. I don't know, guys. I could be onto something. You start trademarking this stuff. Here's the other thing that's cool. We talked about lack of meaning or clear purpose, right? And I stress that because the lack of meaning or the clear purpose, that motivation for people, it's so true, right? You can go on almost every day and find a different influencer motivating people, right? But again, when you read through all the BS and you listen to the language, you listen to the direction, you listen to the meaning behind the motivation, because it's not genuine. It's people, they want an instant here and now. A lot of people want a quick fix. They don't want to put the work in. Well, what happens when you do that? It's like building a house, but you don't frame it properly. It may hold for a little while, but soon enough, it's going to break. It's going to fall apart, right? Same thing with your mind. If you don't frame it properly, and if you're going after things, you want to get motivated. Like everybody wants to, not everybody, bad choice of words, most want to get motivated quick. They want a quick fix. They want a quick resolution to things. What they fail to realize is that there's an effort that goes into that. You can't just watch a video. Has this ever happened to you? Are you one of these people? Well, you come across this video for a reason. You were chosen. Like, I see that crap all the time, and people fall for it. Like, send me a message if you're one of these. And they do it. Why? Because they think that this person, just like me, sitting behind a microphone with a camera pointed at them, has some cure for their ailments or can get them out of the situation that they're in. No, they can't. If they're giving some positive words or something to help you to think better or to look at things better, that's different. But when people get motivated, okay, by money, from status, or they want approval, they want recognition, it fades. It's the wrong framing for your brain, just like it's the wrong framing for the house. It's not correct. When you don't put the work in, when you don't do it the right way, it fails. It fades. At some point, sooner than later, it's going to break. You guys are putting some really good points up here on the board. I like that. Wanda, you already checked out, huh? Freddie says, of course, there's no quick fix. It's steady over time for future healing. So true. Wanda, people want more and more, faster and faster, bigger and better. Good point. Freddie, growth is never instant. You're both 100% right. But isn't that what is taking place? When we, as human beings, we are simply just designed impeccably. We are designed to perfection. Now, we have flaws, we have imperfection, and I could literally start from Genesis all the way to Revelation and tell you why. But my point is, our brains, as you guys know, are just, it's an engineering marvel. Okay? Years ago, I said it earlier, it was hard work, dedication, motivation, self-prevent, all those things. When you did those, they would pay off. What did it take? It took effort, but it took time, right? Respect for others, honesty, right? But it took time. There was no, it's not like you can go out and pick an herb, and if you have some underlying condition, and I'm a strong believer, a huge believer in natural remedies, natural medicines. I think, in my opinion, there are more natural supplements that can cure and do so many things that people don't even realize, right? And it's not promoted, unfortunately, as strong as the other stuff is. But that's my opinion and from experience. But it's like that with our brains. It's like that with actions in life. When people are down and out, they feel trapped. They feel boxed in. Everything seems hopeless. What do? They go online. They want instant gratification. They want answers. They want a way out of it. But what they don't realize is that even if a slice of that pie was good, you still got to put the effort in. Like, you can't just sit back and pretend that everything's going to be okay and that you're going to get out of a situation, right? You've got to put forth that action. And so hence, there you go, lying to yourself again, and that's what happens. Yeah, that's right. Jesus actually said that. Faith, if you build a house on sand, right, and he was referencing that to faith. You're absolutely right, Wanda. Yeah, a lot of times about that too. Wanda said that God has named us in his image. It's up to us to carry that image forward, not everyone else's responsibility. Freddie, too many self-help books out there, bro. You got the best in scriptures. You're absolutely right. Both of you are absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on. So many scriptures. One of my favorite scriptures, I mean, there's many, but one of them, Proverbs 3:5, Psalms 83:18. There's a ton of them, but look up Proverbs 3:5 when you get a chance, or Isaiah 41:14. Was it Isaiah 41:14? Yeah, so many of them, and there's so much solid information in there, and a lot of people, right to you guys' point, it is the number one selling book ever in history, always has been. It's the oldest book, but it's the most sound book with advice. And a lot of people, again, they'll look at it like, oh, it's fairy tales, stories. Is it? Because throughout the years, science has proven, if you look at archaeologists over centuries, they date in reference to the Bible, where they have a lot of their findings, whether that be underground pyramids, tombs, relics, whatever it is, landmarks. I mean, was it Mount Argent, am I pronouncing that correctly, where they actually outlined through mapping, they actually found Noah's Ark, precisely where the scripture says it was. I mean, just a lot of different stuff like that, right? So it's if you get nothing out of it, whether you believe in creation or not, if anything else, the scriptures is very solid for morals, for living a good, clean life. Okay, it's a guide. It's instructions on your life. You know, it's kind of like buying a bookshelf or something. There's no instructions. You got to kind of figure it out as you go, right? That's what the scriptures is for. It's a manual, and in that manual, there is some sound, solid advice in there. And if you follow it, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to get it right all the time. You're going to fail. 100% you're going to fail. I'm going to tell you that right off the top. But you do your best. You try. Right? And a lot of times it's tough. Guys, it's tough. You know? 3, 5, 6. On my desk in card holder. Nice. Nice. Yeah, it's tough. A lot of people try. I hear so much hypocrisy when it comes to that, though. I really do. But that has to be for another podcast, guys, because, I mean, I could probably melt your brains. And I'm not as knowledgeable as others I know, but 20 plus years, I know a little. And I've stumbled, I've fallen, I've fell off the tracks, if you will. And every time I just keep, getting back on, and I'll fall off and get back on and fall off and so on and so forth. But I have some experience. And, at some point, I will share that with people. A lot of people ask me about it. I've mentioned it many times on the show. I'm not afraid to. I'm not embarrassed by it. And if you don't share my opinions and my faith, that's fine. You don't have to, right? That's what's great about having the freedom of choice, freedom of your own beliefs, freedom of your mind, and freedom to really pretty much choose to do what it is you want to do. We're not prisoners. We're not caged. We're free will people. Let me get to this. Speaking about failing, what do you guys think of that word? What comes to mind with people when they think of failure, when they think of failing, right? Does it upset you? Do you you don't have to say personally, but when you hear or you see others or hear others talk about not failing or don't be a failure, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear that stuff? Yeah, Freddie, the flesh versus spiritual. Yeah, that would be it'd be more than a 20-hour podcast, man. I could quote out scriptures right now, especially in Ecclesiastics, that would pretty much put ghost hunting. They wouldn't have any entertainment if they watched my show. I would debunk their theories 100% completely based off of scriptures, but they would have to also believe what the scriptures say. not living up to your beliefs. The reason I asked about failing and fair was because, again, I researched this. I was curious just to see what the populist was. I wanted to kind of see where the average, I use the term polling, if you will, right, statistics. But this is what they've come up with across the board, many different outlets. So avoidance often looks like laziness, right? Fair or failure or success. Fear of failing and failing shame. Fear of succeeding and raising expectations. Gee, I just went over that, didn't I? Now, truth be told, I have not read any of this yet. I looked it up, researched it, and if I could show you my screen, I would. I left everything open. I am reading as I'm doing this, okay? I glanced at things, but I don't know the full content of everything. Just so you guys understand. Fear of change and losing comfort. Staying stuck can feel safer than risking discomfort. Oh, ho, ho, ho. See, now you're getting in deep. This is some deep stuff here. That's interesting, isn't it? Staying stuck can feel safer than risking discomfort. Wonder, I discussed this on my very first episode. I got a little bit into it, but not much, because it's so much to cover on this stuff. It really, really is. But here's the thing. Just reading this now, you could peel the layers of that so many times. I mean, there's just so many layers. But you know what I find interesting is what you guys were typing, okay? It ties into this. Because whether you guys realize it or not, you literally created the framing for these next points, this next discussion topic. And that is the fear or failure. We are afraid to fail today. We truly are. Why are we afraid to fail? We're afraid to fail because over generations, we have been told there's no room to fail, or failure isn't an option, right? A lot of people have had that drilled into their skulls. Failing is not an option. So when you fail, what does that mean? If it's not an option, then if you fail, then you're what? And so instead of failing, what people don't do is try. If they're not going to fail and feel like a loser, as society now teaches people, if they're not going to fail, then what are they not going to do? What's the opposite of fail? Succeed. Try. Give effort, right? So right then and there, just in that one explanation, that one definition, that one statement right there, staying stuck can feel safer than risking discomfort. Think about what that's saying for a second. Freddie, think about that for a second. Relate that to, you want to sing a song, right? Let's say use this Friday, for example, right? John and Judy want to do a love theme, and you say, I really like this love song, I want to sing it, but you know what? I'm afraid that if I don't sing it well or as good as it should be, then, people might not like it and all that stuff. So instead you don't even bother singing it, right? Or maybe you do, but you don't submit it because you don't want others to hear it because you're afraid of rejection. So, therefore, you just don't bother to do it. So, by definition, you don't try because it's too easy to just not do anything. And you don't want that uncomfortable feeling. You don't want to take that risk of feeling that discomfort that if you do it and it doesn't come out right, well, in your mind, then you failed. So you just don't do anything at all. But then you haven't tried. So therefore, ultimately, you can't fail if you're not trying. It's kind of a conundrum, right? It's a hypocrisy within itself. If you don't fail, then you're never going to try. People have it so freaking backwards, man, the way they teach people. Well, failing is never an option. What do you mean it's never an option? I laugh at that statement. I think that is the most asinine statement. I think when people say that, they're setting other people up to just become lazy, right? Self-doubt. It definitely does not build self-esteem and or confidence with that person. And there are a lot of people out there that do lack self-confidence. They don't have that self-esteem. And that could be self-inflicted. That could be learned, throughout the years, whatever, regardless. When people are watching this crap from these proclaimed influencers, motivational speakers and everything else, and I'm not saying all, don't get me wrong. And again, if that's your bag, go to it. But don't be disappointed when you get no results from it, because you're one of those that believes that failing is not an option, or that your goal is money, status, approval, and you find out that guess what? Your motivation's starting to drift. It's starting to fade. It ain't there anymore, bro. Because your motivation's for the wrong reason. You have no purpose. If your purpose is those things I just mentioned, it's not true. It's not meaningful goals. They're false goals. It's kind of like falsetto, right? Not a real note, man. Doesn't exist. And eventually it fades out on you. Well, it's the same thing. Staying stuck on fear, right? It's safer than risking something. And risking that discomfort of failure. But the worst thing is, if you don't fail, don't lie to yourself and say, well, at least I didn't fail. Yeah, but you didn't try, moron. And I'm not saying moron to the people that are trying and stuff. I say moron to the people that are teaching this stuff. Be real with people. I'm not saying be a Debbie Downer and be negative about it. But guess what works? Guess what motivates people? Honesty, realism, the truth. When you lie and everything is a facade, smoke and mirrors, look at the house I live in, look at the money, look at the car, I invest here, I started this business, I do this, follow me, like this, thumbs up that, blah, blah, blah. Come on, man. Again, that's great if that's what you want to do. But what I'm saying is, don't be disappointed when it doesn't yield the results that you were expecting. And don't lie to yourself and say you're trying when you're afraid of failing. You can't do that because you're not trying. And anybody that says, I don't fail, failing is not an option for me, my opinion, get away from those people. Stop listening to those people. If you want to use their, listen to their words for self-accolades or to motivate yourself with some wisdom word or something, okay, fine. Whatever floats your boat, whatever gets you to that next step, right? But keep stepping. Don't not take a step. So what if you trip? So what if you fall down a flight of stairs? Get back up, man. Break a few bones. Hurt yourself. Not physically, metaphorically. Yeah, don't fall downstairs. But you see my point? I'm reading the text that Freddie and Wanda are typing here. Freddie says, I realize I may have skipped out on many things because I didn't try. I have a very open mind now. Wanda, I'm so tired of living in fear, she says, and not by faith. Like Freddie, I missed out, as did my children when they were young. But now, they have succeeded beyond my wildest imagination. See, that's awesome, Wanda. And I'm sure you're very proud and happy. And Freddie says, nice, Wanda, you must be a great mom. And I'm sure she is. And that's the difference, right? Is you help those that you love, or even if you don't love them, maybe you just know them. But whether it is motivation, a kind word, and you're trying to help somebody, you know, so they can better themselves, whether it's your kid, a friend, or a complete stranger, you know, as long as, and again, this is all opinion based, but as long as you're sincere about what you're doing for that person. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I've seen it over and over again, motivation to help others is motivated by greed, selfishness. What am I getting out of it if I help you? How many times have you heard that? What's in it for me? I've seen it, I've heard it, been through it, and it's sad. You know, there's no clear motivation, meaningful motivation. There's something in it for them, or they expect something in it for them. And that's horrible. It really, really is. Hold on, guys, I gotta mute this thing. I realized my phone was on. So, yeah, you guys are both right on that. Absolutely right, 100%. So isn't that cool, Wanda? You said you're a very proud mama, and they acknowledge your efforts when you couldn't in yourself. That's awesome. That is really, really cool. And that's something to be proud of. I tell it to my daughters all the time. Not so much my youngest one. She's in college, whatever. But my oldest, she's getting married in May. And I always tell her, listen, it doesn't matter what you do in life. If you're happy doing it, I don't care if you drove a school bus. I don't care if you wanted to work at a cash register, if you want to be a gas attendant, if you want to be a scientist. You know, if that's what you want, and if that's your success in life, and you can, you know, provide for yourself, right? But if that's what you want, and if that is something that inspires you, that you want to do, then that is success. You are a success. Okay? I mean, she's a teacher for little kids and stuff. She already has one cert. She's going for different things and stuff, but she loves doing it. And she's successful at doing it because it's what she wants to do, right? So, most importantly, I always tell her, be respectful to others, be kind to others, even if they don't want to be kind back. I don't care. Be kind to them. Respect other people. That goes a long way. If not for them, but for yourself. Because you can lay your head down at night, going to bed with a clear conscience that, you know what, you did your best. You didn't maliciously go out and try to hurt people, try to manipulate people, lie to people. You didn't disrespect them. And it's hard sometimes. I say it every show. Sometimes it's hard to be kind. It really is. Sometimes you just want to go up and dope smack somebody right upside the friggin' head. You really do. I see it all the time. You just want to dope smack them. You know, because they have just such an entitlement to them. They have an attitude, and you're like, not this person again. And maybe it's at your favorite coffee shop or something. You run into them getting your coffee or whatever it is, right? Or you're at the store shopping, grocery store, whatever, you know, and they're there because they just have to be. Or it could be somebody you're standing in line with. You know what I find really irks people, right? Is that when you talk soft and you're not argumentative, but they are looking for it, it's almost like they're throwing the line out there with bait on it to try to reel you in, right? To see if you're going to bite, but you don't get hooked. You don't take the bait. Just like, yep, hey, have a great day. It aggravates them. Man, does that piss them off. People don't like that who are like that. Like narcissistic people, they don't like that. They want you to feed into it. They want the fight. You know what I mean? You don't give it to them. Pisses them off. I'm telling you. Kindness is the best thing, man. It's a weapon, really. Excuse me. See, that's cool. And you know what? That's awesome. What both of you were saying about your parents being supportive. That's huge. So you guys are blessed and fortunate in that aspect. Many, unfortunately, don't have that. You know what I mean? They don't have those role models. They don't have... A lot of them are from broken homes, right? And it's nothing against single moms or single dads or nothing. A lot of times they do their best and they try, you know. And a lot of times the child grows up to be a great, respectable adult, what have you. But unfortunately, a lot of times they don't have the male figure in their life, the dad, which is what a lot of, especially the boys, need to be structured, to learn how to be men, how to treat women respectfully, right? You know, instead, unfortunately, they get involved with gangs, drugs, all that stuff, because they don't have that discipline. They don't have that structure growing up. So for people that do and still do, they're very fortunate and very blessed. And I know I don't have to tell you guys that you're very blessed for that. I know that you know that. But a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have that. And see, a lot of times, that's where a challenge comes in. That's why I don't think I would be able to be a licensed counselor in that aspect. Because I don't think I would have to go by a guidebook, right, if you will. And I would have to follow within the lines, right? It's kind of like a contract. Anything within this page, you'd have to follow by. See, me, I go outside the page. I'm not in a contract, right? So I don't have to go by these guidelines because I'm not giving any sort of legal advice. I'm not licensed. I don't get involved with things, matters of the heart, things of that nature. It's more friendly consultation, but that too, that's based on my opinion. I'm not stating as a matter of fact. You know, so if for me to have that type of, you know, career or something, I don't think I would be very good at that in that format because I would have too much guideline restrictions on that, right? And I don't think I'd be able to do that. You know, same thing when I was performing, when I was doing the contest, or I was asked several times to join several different, you know, organizations, similar to like the Legends and stuff, and I couldn't do it because you'd have to perform within their guidelines. And my show was, I did my shows how I wanted to do it, you know, and so, you know, kind of the same thing. Well, you know, a lot of people grow up without having some sort of faith. Okay, we discussed this the last time. Faith, belief. For many, it's interpreted different ways. Many people say that, well, as long as you believe in something, that's kind of open-ended, and I don't want to argue or debate anybody on that, because, again, there's more to faith, there's more to true religion or false religions. There's, people say that there's one God. Well, true and not true, the actual reference to God is always referenced in the scriptures with the true God, uppercase G, but it also references hundreds and thousands of gods. It's a title. It's with lowercase g's. It's a form of worship, right? Like Satan, he's considered a god of this system. Money is considered a god. It's a form of worship, right? So it's kind of on the lines of that. But I think that, to your point, though, is people that grow up with some structure in faith and a deep-rooted belief in, Christianity, the reason, and it's been proven, that they have a better moral compass is because there's a guideline, right, to that. Now, that may come from their parents' teaching on down, but with that teaching, regardless if you believe in their religion or not, for many people that are deeply rooted in their Christian beliefs or others, they have a sense of moral obligation, and they follow that moral obligation, and therefore they instruct that to their kids. And a lot of that is, don't commit adultery and all that stuff, fornication, whatever. And as silly as that sounds to people, it may be basic to some, but even the basic moralities of teachings like that are so helpful in life, right, that a lot of people over generations dismiss it. And now they look at marriage, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get divorced, right? So that morality compass is gone, right, to your point. That morality compass is gone, so a lot of people just, they take it for granted. Well, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get divorced. Or if things get tough in a marriage or a relationship, whatever, I'll just walk away. What's the big deal? So that's a whole nother thing. But you're right. And again, that's how I believe. That's my opinion. But studies have shown that to be a fact. 100% unequivocally, that is a fact. Yeah. Love is it's underrated. I don't think people emphasize the true meaning of what love is. True love. I really don't. I just think that people, not everybody, but sadly a lot, really take it for granted. Loyalty, I think a lot of people just, unfortunately, they don't really know. They think they do, but just because you love somebody doesn't mean you practice it, right? And there's a whole, it's amazing on where you could go with that, because again, that'd be like a whole nother, as Freddie says, 20 hours. But you're absolutely right. I think that structure, discipline, and having faith, but being disciplined in it, at least it's some sort of moral compass that helps you, but again, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that don't have any of those things, And I know people, to be perfectly honest with you, who grew up with just some unfortunate childhoods and stuff like that. And they were fortunate to be surrounded by others in their life later on in their early adulthood to transform and change who they were. And, you know, they came out all right, you know, but that's far few and in between. So it's tough. It's tough. But I think the more people talk about it, I think the more people are open and honest about it, then I think the better off that person or the people around you are. But then it comes down to your other thing, Wanda, that you were saying earlier too, right? Both you and Freddie, that a lot of times you seclude yourself. You shelter yourself in because you find it difficult to have meaningful, honest conversation with somebody because either they get upset, somebody gets angry, somebody gets mad, you don't agree with their way of thinking, right? And so because you don't align to their thoughts and their beliefs or whatever it is, they just get upset unless you line up with them. That's the unfortunate part about it. And it happens a lot, that division is there. It's so thick you can cut it with a chainsaw. Probably not even a chainsaw. You might need an axe or something. I don't know. Yeah, absolutely. Freddie says, the true test is when things go sideways. Absolutely, Freddie. Sideways, backwards, upside down ways, you name it, man. All different directions. All right, guys, I'm going to jump into another thing here, which I think you guys will find really, really cool. Again, I thank you guys for, chatting like last time. I mean, I love the commentary. I love the chats. I love the shared opinions and expressions, you know, and I'm learning a lot. Just from doing the show, I learn a lot from you guys. And I take away, believe it or not, when I read what you guys type down, and then, you know, when I have the lines, the open call-ins, and I'm able to talk with people and they can talk, I listen. And a lot of times what people say, what they type, whatever, and stuff like that, I take all of that stuff in. I even do that on the Friday night show too, but I take a lot of that stuff in. And even now, both of you had said things that got me thinking, and that's good. And that's what you should be able to do. You should be able to, that being the operative word, you should be able to share, right? And express yourself. I don't have to agree with everything, nor do you guys have to agree with everything I'm saying. Doesn't matter. It may be something that you guys are typing. Maybe it makes me think of a different way to look at it or have a different approach, and vice versa. That's what open discussion is all about, in my opinion. Take a quick break, guys. We will be right back. Yeah, that was a little something by our sponsors. Pretty cool. We have to have a sponsor, guys. I mean, Wanda, understandable. You get some rest, my dear friend. Listen, I appreciate all of your text, everything that you've been sharing. It's awesome. And I'm glad you could join. Yeah, definitely. If you can, try to make it back Wednesday night. I am supposed to be getting snow, so we'll see. But it's not till later, like 2 a.m. in the morning. But we'll see what happens. But again, thank you for sharing. Trust me, I understand. That's why it's called Late Night with Denny Cool. A lot of people watch afterwards. But nonetheless, thank you so much. And you rest up. All right, guys, where were we? Oh, absolutely. I love listening. I really do. And I learn a lot. I appreciate it. Trust me. So remember how we were talking about earlier? I was saying that staying stuck can feel safer than risking discomfort. Here's what's interesting, right? Is that it says learned helplessness. We touched on this a little bit. If someone has experienced, right, repeated setbacks, trauma, or lack of control, they may subconsciously believe effort doesn't change outcome. Interesting. So when effort seems pointless, motivation shuts down. Instant gratification culture. We were literally just talking about this, and this is actually one of the bullets in here. It says constant dopamine hits. Now, what's that? Well, that's like the adrenaline rush, right? So constant dopamine hits, social media, scrolling, quick entertainment, train the brain to prefer, check this out, easy rewards. Long-term effort feels harder in comparison. Freddie, I was just saying this before I read this. No, I didn't read this before. I wish I did. I would have tied more into my point. But I referenced early on, sometimes hard work, effort, continuous effort, failing, falling, getting back up, trying again. It may take you a little bit longer, right? But it's meaningful goals, right? The effort's meaningful. You're not doing it for money, for status, instant gratification, approval, right? So when it's something meaningful, your goal is meaningful, your brain responds to it. It may take you a little bit longer to achieve, but it's longer lasting. It doesn't fade away like the instant gratification. Now, low self-belief or identity conflict. If someone internally believes, I'm not disciplined, or I'm just not that type of person, their behavior aligns with that identity. I guess my thinking's not that far off, Freddie. It's really not that far out of the box, as some might think. Freddie, you're absolutely right. It's a routine that keeps you alert and healthy. Brain activity. It's about having an open mind, Freddie says, to reflect on something you didn't realize before. Take a chance. It can be a wonderful thing. You're absolutely right. And that's what this is all about. It really, really is. There's a whole nother level in discussion on what taking a chance is and all that stuff. You can redefine and kind of pick that apart, right? But it's a basic understanding. But what I just read there, Henry Ford once said that if you think you can do a thing or you can't do a thing, you are right. Right? And so what did he mean by that? Well, I literally just read low self-belief or identity conflict. If somebody eternally believes. So if they're internalizing a belief that they're not disciplined, or that they're just that type of person, right? Their behavior aligns with that identity, that way of thinking. And so you act consistently with who you think you are. And that aligns with what Henry Ford, the designer, maker of Ford Motor Company. But it's interesting how when you think you are something, or you are not something, or you can do something, or you cannot do something, how your brain reacts to that. Subconsciously, you constantly tell yourself you're nothing, you can't. And so your life becomes a can't, right? And then again, you don't fail, because if you aren't failing at something, I'm not using that term as if you have to constantly fail. That's not what I'm saying. But meaning, if you don't stumble, failing is all part of learning. You can't do stuff and know everything. It doesn't work that way. It's like looking at a book and judging it by its cover. You know that expression, judge a book by its cover? Yeah, that's great. But you can't look at a book and say, oh, I know what the story's about. No, you got to read it. You may not understand it at first, but you continue to read it, right? So that first lack of understanding, that's kind of like doing things, right? You don't get it right away. You have to learn it, but you have to fail in order to understand, in order to learn, in order to grasp everything. And that's what this is saying. No structure or environment support. Now, this is about low self-belief or identity conflict or lack of motivation. It says, motivation is unreliable. Systems create consistency without routine, accountability, or a supportive environment. I was just saying that about you and Wanda with your parents. Even ambitious people drift. It's amazing, isn't it? How something that we probably don't think of all the time, or that we may take for granted, that seems so simple because we have it, or it's part of our life, or we've never had to be without a certain thing, such as whether it's parents, family, friends, motivation, whatever it is. If you've never had to lose it, or you've never been without it, we take that for granted. It's like I always say, we don't go to bed at night panicking that, what if the sun doesn't shine tomorrow? No. We don't go to bed petrified over that, because we subconsciously know we go to bed, we wake up, it's the morning, right? As a rule. Sun shining, as a rule. Maybe cloudy, but it doesn't matter. The sun is always there. We take that for granted. But we do it in a way because we know it's there. It's consistent. And that consistency is really what this is saying. It's saying when you have consistency in your life, whether that's support from your parents or friends or routines, that is motivation. But even people that have that sometimes drift, right? It's called life. It's called anxiety. It's called stresses. It's called being human, right? As human beings, we falter. We sometimes sway left to right, and that will happen. But if you allow yourself to continue to be swayed, and then you don't do anything about it, you don't take action to try and correct it. You may not get it right all the time. That's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself. Just continue to try. And again, it takes time, guys. There's no instant success like overnight stuff. Unless it's a fluke thing, you're one of the few billion that happens to, but as a rule, succeeding, achieving goals that are meaningful typically takes time. Now, How long it takes? Well, that depends on your ambition. But as a rule, it typically takes time. And they last because it's a meaningful thing. It's something you desire, something you want, something that's important to you. Oh, yeah, that's interesting, Freddie. You can catch negative thoughts. Check if fact or things assumed in work or in changing them to something more balanced and positive. Freddie says he likes to talk to himself in a positive way as he would to a friend. That's a really good point there. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with influencing yourself. You know, a lot of people think that that's crazy, or, hey, you talking to yourself again? Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. I'm talking to myself. When you say things outwardly, and I said this earlier, when you say it out loud, it becomes real, right? But you've got to be careful. Don't fall into that trap where just because you're saying it, it is a real action. You have to, yes, start somewhere. When you say it out loud to yourself, like, today's going to be a good day, okay? And then after you say it, you just lay in bed all day. Well, can't be a really good day if you're not doing anything, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe your day to you is just laying in bed all day. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, if your goal or your ambition is for it to be a good, productive day, and you want to accomplish this, that, or the other, and so when you wake up, you have your coffee, and you say, you know, today's going to be a good day. I'm going to get this done or whatever. You may not fulfill all those goals for that day, but by saying it aloud to yourself, today is going to be a good day. I'm going to succeed today. Today's going to be a great day. But you follow through with that, and you try to make it a great day, right? And then you do that all the time, or as much as you can. You're going to find that it gets easier. And then you're going to find that those words are no longer just hollow words. You're following through with it, with action. If you just wake up every day, and I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, you can wake up and say, today's going to be a great day. Okay, fine. But what are you doing? Are you just sitting back hoping it's going to be a good day? Like, are you just saying it out loud just to hope it's going to be a good day? That's my point. And action doesn't necessarily mean, guys, that it has to be a physical action. Action can mean your thought process, your attitude, right? How you talk to others, you know, how you think, what you're doing for activities. Action is more than just a physical motion. Action is thinking, action is attitude. So there's more to action than just physically, say, swinging a hammer, right? Action requires effort. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Words are great, yes, but don't fall into that trap where you think that just because you're saying it, that it's real. It's not real unless you put action to it, whether that's thought, whether that's changing your attitude, right? Trying to think more positive, trying to influence yourself in a more positive, productive way. And then, of course, yeah, maybe trying to accomplish one little thing that you've been putting off for a long time, and you get that one little thing done. Well, guess what? It's a great day. It's a good day. Because even if you don't get that one little thing done that you've been trying to get done for a long time, if you take the steps to try and do it, and maybe you didn't get it done, but at least you took the effort to try to get it done, you can say today was a good day. Because you've already succeeded. And you succeeded in the sense that you tried, right? You may not have succeeded that day. Maybe you failed at accomplishing that goal, but that's okay. Because when you failed, you say, okay, why didn't I succeed today? Don't beat yourself up and say, oh, you know, stupid me. No, look at it and say, okay, what could I have done different that maybe I would have succeeded or I would have accomplished that goal. And then you learn from it. And that's the hardest thing for us to do, is to look at our errors or to look at our failures and say, what can I take away positive from this? And tomorrow I can try it again, but what can I do differently? What can I apply differently? You know, what actions can I take differently? So tomorrow I will get it done, right? When you can do that and you can start to do that, you're going to find that the more you do that, the easier it gets for you. The less difficult it becomes. You're always going to have problems. There's always going to be hiccups and trials and errors. It's inevitable, but it's the process, right? So you at least have to take action. Just try small things. That's my suggestion. Freddie says, I am one of the most patient people, but I lose it sometimes. Freddie, we all do. You know, but that's the start of it, though, is patience, right? A lot of people don't even have that, Freddie. A lot of people don't have patience. Freddie says, for example, if I was having a bad day yesterday and said something bad to someone, today I would reflect and try to lift someone up. See, well, that's the difference. Okay, so say you were a complete dink yesterday. You said something unkind, or you treated somebody with a horrible attitude just because you were having a bad day. It happens. I think at times we all do that once in a while. But the difference is, if you recognize that and you say, you know what, yesterday I wasn't so kind, I wasn't so respectful, and for no reason I lashed out on this person. And it could have been justified to yourself. You could have said, this person's just been on my nerves for the last month. Been aggravating me, just bothering me, just. And maybe in your mind it was justifiable. But at the end of the day, a better solution would have been just not to say anything at all, right? But you recognized it, and you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do something different today. Today, it's not really a better day for me. I'm still going through this, that, or the other. But at least what I'm going to try and do is be more positive towards somebody else, or try not to take out my aggression towards somebody, even though he or she's been doing this. I'm just going to be nice to them because, you know, I don't want to be that person, right? And so when you recognize something, when you recognize your errors, you recognize your mishaps, and you try to correct them, you may not do it right away. You may not succeed at it right away. But the recognition and the effort of you trying to do that, that's huge because you're recognizing it. You're not, most people, Freddie, they know they did, or they refuse to accept that, yeah, whatever, he deserved it or she deserved it. Maybe they did. But it doesn't make it any better, and it doesn't justify it that one person treats another person, or, well, they deserved it, so retaliation. No, in my opinion, I don't think that's the right way to handle it. I think the most appropriate way to handle it is either, if you can't sit down with somebody, right? I'm not saying you personally, but in general, if one person can't sit down with that person and say, hey, listen, something's been bothering me, you know, we talk or whatever, and if that person is not open for that, okay, then you leave it alone. You walk away from it, right? That is being the bigger person, right? And so being the bigger person also, too, is when you recognize your faults and mistakes, right? You're owning up to it. You're admitting to yourself, I was a complete dink. But today, I'm not going to be. Today, I'm going to try to be a better person. I'm going to try to have a better attitude. I'm going to try to be a little more positive and uplifting for somebody else. You can see that's the difference, Freddie. That's the night and day difference. As opposed to many people, even though they know it, they don't care. You know what? They're going to go on through their life. That person's a nothing and nobody in their mind, and it's not important to them. and that's the huge takeaway. It is harder when you get older, but I think also too, a lot of people as they get older, you become more protective, right? You become more not secluded, but what happens, I was reading an article about this a while back, is when we get older, we always want to reflect and look back on when we were younger, right? And this opposite applies. When we're younger, we want to be a little bit older. But a lot of that, we look back and we say, if I was just in my 30s again, or my 40s again, or whatever it is, you try to emulate that. And a lot of times that will depress somebody. Or as you get older, you realize that maybe it's physical limitations. Maybe it's financial limitations, obligations, whatever it is, that you now have certain limitations that you never did before. And again, it could be for a number of reasons, right? So you start to build up this resentment, but you're building up a resentment because you're aging. And not everybody gets like this, but a lot of people do. Some people, they lose that independence, where before they could just get up and go and do what they wanted to. Now you can't, right? It's not that easy anymore. And so a lot of times when you get older, you get angrier. And that anger stems from you not being able to do what you used to do anymore. Or maybe when you were younger, you were this good-looking guy, good-looking girl, and you could blend into any crowd and you go out, have social gatherings, whatever. Well, now not so much. So there's many different reasons, as silly as they sound, but a lot of times we take that and we get angry about that, right? Because we start to, in a sense, limit ourselves. And then we don't like going out as much. I know personally, I love staying home. I love to be home, relaxed, watching a good movie or something, or just sitting home having a cup of coffee. I don't watch a ton of TV, but when I'm home and I am relaxing, which is hardly ever, I just love being home. I'm a homebody. Before, when I was younger, Freddie, I was never home. I might as well call it bed, because the only time I ever went to my house, So it's understandable. We all go through it, I think, at some point. Oh, you meant the patience is harder. Oh, okay. Okay, I got you. All right, so what you're saying is, for you, as you get older, it's harder for you to be patient. I got you. That's true for a lot of people. I'm the opposite. I don't know, though, Freddie, if I've become more patient, to be perfectly honest with you. I've always been a very patient person. Always. I've always been very forgiving, right, for some reason. I've always looked at things much, much different than the average person. I've always understood people in ways that probably are not realistic. I don't know how else to put it. But I've always been like that. It's weird. Sometimes it used to frighten me because I would be able to just pick up on things about certain people, how they were feeling, who they were, simply by either the way they talked or their expressions or whatever it was, body language, you know what I mean? I could just, I don't know. It was weird. And it would affect me, right? But again, that's a lot of the empathetic part of me as well. But yeah, I think that I've always been patient like that. And I think the older I get, I think I get more like I understand more, right? Like the one thing I have a hard time with, though, I'm not gonna lie to you, is I have a hard time being patient with intentional ignorance. So when somebody is intentionally ignorant, or meaning ignorant in a way that it's malicious, or they put others down, or they feel entitled, and that's probably what you're saying too, is that there are a lot of, especially the younger generations, not all, but a vast majority, they have this entitlement, everybody owes me something, I'm deserving of this, yet I haven't done anything to earn it, right? That, if you're referring to that stuff in patience, I can understand that. And that, I think, Freddie, would come from, as we get older, we've already done that, been there, experienced it, right? So we put the time in, we put the effort in, we put the hard work in. You're right around the same age as me. When we were growing up, we didn't have all of these luxuries. You know what I mean? Like, our parents may have thought that our generation had it made versus theirs, and so on and so forth. I understand that generational gap, but I can tell you, and I'm sure the same applies to you, I didn't get handed crap. I wanted allowance of money. I'm mowing the lawn. I'm raking the yard. It was just that simple. I wanted to go to the store. My brother and I, we had to walk. We missed a school bus. We didn't get rides. We walked. We didn't do our homework. We stayed after. We got detentions. We got suspensions. We got into a fight after school. Suspended for a week, whatever. Then you go home. And if that wasn't scary enough, you go visit relatives. They find out about it. We probably get a backhand from your grandparents or one of your aunts or one of your uncles. You know what I mean? Like, we put in that hard work. For many of us, Freddie, our age and older, we've been working since we can remember, whether it's part-time jobs or doing this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? So when we look at generations younger than us who don't understand that, and they just feel as if everything is owed to them, or they feel entitled to things, then that patience is very, very, very thin. So I can definitely understand that. Yeah, when backhands were allowed. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, today, our generation, I sometimes watch the videos when they do that. You ever see, I think I talked about it last time, when they do like the, hey, the 80s is calling, and they'll do a video, show like the kids riding the bikes and stuff, and the boom boxes and Nintendos or whatever it was, right? Street light would come on, you have to go home, or you have to be in your house, and yet you'd still be outside hanging out with your friends, you know what I mean, hanging out, walking around the mall, Heck, my brother and I, we used to build forts in our backyard all the time, climb trees, and even when the street light came on, we get yelled at for not coming in. Now, these kids don't even go outside half the time. And if they do, it's not to go out and build forts, Yeah, backhands back then, Freddie, I got a few of those in my time, man. I'm sure you did too. And it wasn't just by your parents or whatever. I mean, any elder back then, in your family or whatever, yeah, they had no problem, giving me a good licking, So I definitely agree with that. Patience for that stuff. Yeah, forts were awesome, man. Forts were awesome. We used to build some massive tree forts, dude. All by hand. Yeah. It was really cool. It was awesome. Yeah, we should build tree forts like it was nobody's business. Here's something interesting, Freddie, right? I wanted to find out what percentage of the population are driven by self-motivation. What I got back for answers, it kind of varies, right? But it says, in general, that there isn't an exact agreed upon percentage of the population that's driven by self-motivation. And it gives you the reasons why people aren't driven by self-motivation, or the majority, rather, okay? But it does break it down the best it can. It says self-motivation isn't all or nothing. It exists on a spectrum, which I found interesting according to these studies. It depends on context, work, fitness, finance, relationships, etc. So the like of whatever the motivation is. Researchers measure it differently. Motivation, grit, self-determination. That said, here's what research suggests. Again, it's just a broad generalization of different studies. Studies on motivation in workplace often show that roughly 20 to 30% of people are strongly internally driven regardless of supervision. Now you're thinking 20 to 30%. I guess, I don't know, I don't have anything to compare that with. It would seem like a high number, but out of 100%, studies, people in workplaces show that roughly 20 to 30% of people are strongly driven regardless of supervision. So, I mean, I don't know, that may fall in a consistent line. I don't know enough about that to really argue about that. Around 50 to 60% are mixed. That means that they're motivated by both internal drive and external rewards, pay, recognition, pressure. We just talked about those things. And finally, about 10 to 20% rely heavily on external motivation and structure to stay productive. So you would think, right, that, hey, Richard, I seen you pop in there, buddy. We're just going over some fun roundabout numbers here. You would think that the 50 to 60% would be internal motivation. I just find it fascinating how it's kind of the opposite. That only 10 to 20 rely heavily on external motivation and structure to stay productive. That's interesting. So if you're asking about people who are highly self-driven without needing outside pressure, a rough estimate would be about 20 to 30% of the population. Think about that. And it's probably lower than that. All right. These studies were done a couple of years ago. But people who are self-driven, self-motivated, right? It's only 20 to 30% of people out of the population. Now, this is, I'm assuming, like a worldwide thing, right? But you'd have to kind of break that down and understand the demographic, geographic, and all that stuff. But still, I think that that's quite a low number, I would think. You know what I mean? I'd be interested to see if I did a study on back in, say, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever, a generational gap to see what the differences truly are in comparison to today. I would like to find out what that generational gap is, what the percentages of it are. Hey, Richard, good to have you, man. I'm glad you were listening. I'm assuming you're at work. Richard, do we sound like an AM talk show radio? Like Delilah? No, Delilah was actually FM. I do correct myself. Yeah, she was the relationship expert. I think somebody said, Richard, I don't know if it was you, that because she had so many relationships or something that makes her the expert. Freddie says, people get too busy in all aspects of life and forget to give praise to someone for a variety of reasons. So self-motivation is how you see yourself. I am confident in who I am, Freddie says. That's good. That's a good point right there, Freddie. And that's very true, too. When you say that, yeah, people get too busy in all aspects of life and forget to give praise. So basically what Freddie is saying is, we're so consumed with what's going on around us. And a simple accolade, meaning, you reward somebody by just, simply giving them praise as to how well they're doing, or that maybe they have a beautiful smile, or you like their personality, or they're a positive person, or making good effort, or whatever it is, right? But something positive, right? You're so focused on your problems. You're so focused on yourself that we kind of forget to give praise or throw little accolades to others, and he's so right on that. And to his last point is that he's confident in who he is. And you're right. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not, right? So maybe sometimes, it would be nice for you, not you personally, but in general, if I always say that if you know somebody that needs help, and maybe you can't provide or offer the type of help they're looking for, whatever it is, but you can still provide some sort of comfort, whether that's a kind word, whether that's checking in on somebody, whether if somebody's going through a bad time in their life, or they're not feeling so positive, or whatever, maybe just, hey, how you doing? Everything okay? Hey, listen, if you need to talk, whatever, or if you just want to vent, I'm a good listener, things of that nature, or check up on somebody. I've always been the type of person, especially when I know somebody, if I know somebody is in need, or something needs to be done, I just go do it. And it's happened to me before. Sometimes it's come back, unfortunately, to bite me in the ass. I was talking about that earlier. But you know what? It doesn't take much to make a small change to somebody's day. It really doesn't. People, we all need to feel wanted. We all need to feel loved. And we all need to feel recognized. And sometimes just by doing a small thing, a nice gesture, I don't know, maybe they like coffee, you buy them a coffee, whatever. The point being is what Freddie said. We're so focused and consumed with our own lives, we sometimes forget about the people around us. Oh, you jumped in about 10:30, Richard? Nice. Oh, it's better quality this time? Oh, you're off work tonight, but you oh, okay, Richard. I got you. All right, well, it's cool, man. I'm glad you're tuning in. Hey, Richard, you want me to start singing the jingle? Delilah. Only thing is, though, people aren't calling in about relationship advice. Richard, did I ask last time, was she a professed relationship advisor, like self-professed, or was she like... I don't know how you could be a licensed relationship advisor. I suppose maybe you could be like a licensed therapist. I don't know how that would work. Oh, better quality than AM radio. Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. You know what I was going to do, Richard? Is I have the apps for it and stuff too. And I have all the what do you call it? Toys. I was going to put an effect on here where it would sound like I was an AM radio station. I was going to do that. I was going to say, oh man, wouldn't that be cool? But then again, I don't know if that would be annoyance, right? Because it's not real. But I thought that'd be cool to try. I don't know. Oh, you think she's... Yeah, so she's self-proclaiming that she is. Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah, self-professed, yeah. Yeah, hissing like a hum. You know, I think I said that last time. I love... Like, you guys ever hear the sound? I'm sure you have. Like, you know, that old static radio. I used to fall asleep by that. I didn't know who was talking. It may have been Rush Limbaugh. I don't know, but when I was younger, I used to listen to the AM station, and I used to hear this guy talking all the time. He was very positive, whatever. That's all I remember. But it was like staticky with the hum, like in the background. I can't duplicate it, but I do have the noise generation for it. What used to put me to sleep, that static. I don't know, it's something about the static and the humming and the hissing that used to put me to sleep. And I have all of those too. I did one, the binaural beats. I'm gonna stop, pumping out some more of those things. I really love that stuff. Yeah, dial-up internet, Freddie says. Oh, it's and then it'd sign in, you got mail. Remember that? Do you know that at one point that voice was the most used or recognized voice? So what was it? The most used voice, like, in the entire world or country, I forget. But anyways, it was, the most recognized voice or used voice. You got mail. Yeah. That was weird. See how we kind of weave in and out of conversations? You kind of jump around. They passed out floppy disks everywhere. I also have the sound of my... Oh, Richard, you have the sound of vinyl records with the poppy. Yeah, I love that sound. Matter of fact, show you guys something. This one here, I was going to go through these, but let me see if I can do this. Watch. Let me see. I don't know if I can do this or not. Hold on. Okay, yeah. All right. Hold on, give me a second. What I'm trying to do. All right, let me just narrow this down. Hold on, watch this. Watch this. So this is actually, I think this is our very first cool covers we did. Let me just move myself. I literally just did this live as we were talking. I put my video in here. I'm going to shrink myself. There we go. Okay. This here was our first cool covers. I think this was volume 1. I have all these up. We do have another cool covers coming out with. I got to send out the reminder too. I think it was musical theater or something like that, but that's going to be volume 7. But anyways, right, this was, let me see. This was back in, listen, look at this, 2024, volume 1, cool covers. This was our first cool covers album that we did. And listen to the scratch. I did this intentionally. Listen to the scratch. We see, oh yeah, Richard, look at this. You were number 2 on here. I don't think Freddie was on at the time. What Was Freddie a member then? No, Freddie didn't come on then. Yeah, Freddie wasn't a member yet. Yeah, Freddie, yep. Yeah, this was this was back in 2024. This was our very first one. Take a listen. This was, matter of fact, when Levi first joined as well.
Wise men say
it was pre-Freddie, yeah.
Only fools rush in.
That was Levi. Let me see, Richard.
See it in your eye. Falling in love with you.
Let me see.
Like falling in love.
And listen to the crackling and popping. Like, I love that sound on vinyl records. Nothing replaces that sound, in my opinion. Now, Richard, this is you. How cool is this? Huh? I still have all these albums saved.
I've been alone with you inside my mind, and in my dreams I've kissed your lips 1,000 times. I sometimes see
listen to
you
that
pass
deep
outside
tone,
my
man.
door.
That's so cool, Richard.
Hello, is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your smile.
We have, let me see. This was, we did a total so far, I think, of 6. Freddie, I think you, let me see. This one here was the country classics. No, not this one, I'm sorry. This was our blues, our jazz blues cover. This one was actually pretty cool because this was the only one I think I did that actually had the flames in it. This one we had, let me see, Freddie. Yeah, Freddie was on this one because, Freddie, you did Sweet Home, Chicago by the Blues Brothers. So I knew you were on one of these things. Yeah. No, you were on this one too, Freddie. You joined this one right here. If you look at number 23, right? You were on here. You sang that one. Yeah. I knew you came on like right on 4 or 5 of one of the volumes. Let me see if I can find you here. Hold on. You're towards, you're right at the very, very end. Let me see.
Beautiful to me.
That's Dan Penn. Yeah, this was one of This was the only album I did.
Come on.
There you go. This was the only Cool Covers album I did with the actual flame image in the background, where it's actually like the MP3 or the what do you call it there? But yeah, this was the only one I did like that. But this is Freddie.
So
That's
beautiful.
Pan. Obviously, you can tell his voice. This was a really cool album. I loved this album. Yeah, you're up next, Freddie.
To me.
The Elvis one came out really good too. Volume 6.
Me.
Yeah, that was Dan Pan. He got a recognizable voice. But Freddie, this is you.
Come on. Oh, baby, don't you want to go? Whoa. Come on. Oh, baby, don't you want to go? Whoa. Back to that same old place, a sweet home Chicago. Come on. Baby, don't you want to go? Whoa. Hiding high. Baby, don't you want to go? Whoa. Back to that same old place, a sweet home Chicago. Well, when I was 2, 6 and 2
Yeah,
is 8.
this was that was one of our one of our best albums. I think that the members did was that one right there. I really liked that one a lot. That one was cool because that was the jazz and the blues one. So I thought that one right there, by far, in my opinion, was probably like one of the better ones that you guys did. But I mean, they're all great, right? Well, Shar, she had her independent one, her solo album. But you know what happened? A month later, I had to download her entire album. A month later, YouTube, they removed it, right, from view. Because the songs she did, there was so many copyrights on there. She basically only had like 2 or 3 songs that you could hear. The rest were restricted, and I didn't want to get a strike against us, so I had to take it down, unfortunately. But yeah, that was insane. That was definitely insane. But see, I love doing stuff like that. And now we have quite a few more new members, right? So the newer album, it's going to be jacked. Yeah, and I can't wait to start the member awards month, which is going to be really cool, right? Because that's going to be where the members vote for other members, and it's going to go by tally. So they will email, each Friday night, and at the end of the month, we total up the tallies, and then, of course, I will announce how each member will earn and gain points. And that could be from participation to song choice to whatever it is. But at the end of the month, there's going to be a member, and that member can have a customized mug with their image and stuff made on it, logos and stuff. It'll be shipped directly to them and all that fun stuff. So we're going to start doing that. A lot of cool things. Here's something really cool, right? You're just talking about attitude. Do you know, according to study, a person's attitude is their consistent way of thinking. Not only that, but it's the way of feeling and responding toward someone or something. Freddie, you literally just said that not too long ago. That, towards somebody else, how you like to be positive towards, somebody else and uplift somebody else. But that's all about attitude as well, right? So according to this study, it's a broad study, it says it has 3 main parts, right? Now, this is defining an attitude of a person. So, number one is thoughts or beliefs, what they think about. So, what that person thinks about, what their thoughts are, what their beliefs are. Number two, feelings, emotions, how they feel about it. Number three, which I find pretty ironic, we talked about this earlier, actions, behavior, tendency, how they tend to act because of those thoughts and feelings. So the last one ties up the first two, thoughts and feelings. So it's how they act on their thoughts and feelings. For example, if someone believes exercise is important, though feels motivated about it, emotion, and regularly works out, action, they have a positive attitude towards fitness. You know, I'm going to write a book. Again, full transparency, I didn't read any of this stuff. I looked it up, I glanced to make sure that the information I had was close and accurate to the content I wanted to discuss. And everything I literally said before I started reading all this stuff to you guys, these guys are pointing out. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm right. It just means that it's a common sense opinion. And this, of course, is taken by studies and all that stuff. Or they're bragging, yeah, exactly. But, you know, it just goes to show you, though, right, that you don't have to be specialized in something to have a general understanding or thought or use common sense, right, to really understand the basics of things. I think sometimes, and I do it, I am so guilty of it. I try to sometimes oversimplify or what's the word I'm looking for? To make things more complex than they really should be. Right? Like, I do that a lot. Especially when it comes to the show. When I design the banners and stuff, sometimes I over design and it takes me a hot minute to redesign it all over again because I have to walk away, come back, look at it. Then I'll ask my wife, what do you think of that? She goes, nah, too much, too busy, too loud, too colorful, too this. And so I gotta, learn sometimes that just sometimes simple works. And the same thing here, right? Sometimes just simple common sense works. You don't have to be overcomplicated. But I'm notorious for doing it. Like I'm an overthinker. Did you ever hear that? Stop overthinking things, or you analyze things too much. That's me. I overthink sometimes. I truly do. I overthink because a lot of things to me just they don't make sense. Or something is too simple that in my mind it can't be right? There's got to be more to it than just that. And a lot of times it's what it is. Sometimes it is that simple. You're an over-explainer? Yeah. No, I can see that about you. And you know what, Freddie? I'm the same way. It's my daughter, my wife says it all the time. She's like, Dad, I know. Just make your point. And I'm like, I am making my point. She goes, I know, but like you gotta go above and beyond explaining things. Richard, you say you used to be a huge overthinker. Yeah, that's it's tough though, honestly. I mean, I've calmed down a lot. So maybe I'm in that same category with you, Richard. And Freddie, You can't be blunt and explain my thoughts and explain your thoughts fully. Yeah, see, that's a tough thing. No, I get that. I totally get that. Sometimes it's difficult just to come right out and just make your point and be done with it. Right? You almost feel an obligation. I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm learning how to retrain my brain, if you will, to learn the simple method, right? Which is more direct. But then, I don't know about you, Freddie or Richard, sometimes I almost feel obligated to explain it more thorough, as opposed to, because I think that sometimes, as much as it's needed, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure like you guys, right? Sometimes, yeah, you can be blunt when need be. You can be a little harsh. But I think I feel obligated to explain, like, rather than just being so point blank, which I understand it, I get it, and sometimes it's needed. But I also think, too, that there's just, I don't know, sometimes I feel obligated to explain to somebody as to why the reason is this. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes you can overextend your point and then you actually lose the very point. You start off great and midway through, like, okay, you've made your point, but then you overextend that so your point no longer becomes valid. It just becomes like dragged on. Did you ever do that? Oh, Richard, you tend to be too blunt sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's the thing, man. It's like, what is the happy medium, right? I guess. I mean, I don't know. Oh, yeah, Freddie, you like to help people understand until they say enough. Yeah. Well, listen, I think we all have that blemish about us, right? We either over-explain, we don't explain enough. Some people are fractioned. Some people, they're just so blunt, right? Like Richard, he said he's very blunt to the point. And it really depends, I think. Like, honestly, I really think it depends on the situation and the person. I think that if I'm speaking with somebody, say I never met, or I'm having a discussion, right, and it's a serious thing, I tend to do less explaining, and I tend to do more direction. You know, like, I'll be more assertive when I'm talking to somebody, right? So I think it's a matter of trying to adjust to the situation, right? That takes some skill, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult because earlier we were talking about, you know, changing, doing small steps, making that effort, but sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do, especially if you have that personality, you know, like Freddie, me, Richard, you know, you tend to just fall into that old habit. If you're blunt, Freddie, people assume the worst. Richard, in a kitchen environment, one does not have the time to explain. Well, yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Being in that type of environment, Freddie says just yell fire. No, I hear you guys. Listen, you're both right, you know. Yeah, in a kitchen environment, sometimes, yeah, you don't have that time. Everything's on the fly. And I used to work in restaurants. I managed 3 of them. You know, I go from restaurant to restaurant years ago. I'll never do that again. But I learned a lot. But you're absolutely right, man. Food's coming out, times, service, all that stuff. Everything has to go on the fly, and there's going to be constant communication, but it's got to be quick, to the point, and punctual, right? There's no, you can't explain, you know, I get that, yeah. So again, it's situational, right? I mean, it's really situational. But anyways, guys, it is, holy crap, it's 12:30. I didn't realize the time. See, I just enjoy this so much. I loved the commentary. Just on a quick note, let me end on this. This is what I wanted to get into, but I didn't have time because I ran my mouth. Well, I like interacting. I love it when people text stuff. And Wednesday, hopefully, if it doesn't snow early enough, I may even start my show a little bit earlier, I should say, so that if I do get called out, I will have time to do my show. But real quick, right, I just want to explain a separation here. What is the subconscious mind? You can think of your mind in two parts. You have the conscious mind. The conscious mind is logical thinking, decision making, short-term focus, and willpower. Pretty interesting, right? But here's where the power comes in. Subconscious mind stores beliefs and memories. It controls habits, runs automatic behaviors. See, that's where change comes in. Influences emotions, regulates body functions, heartbeat, breathing, etc. Next podcast, man, I want to dive into the subconscious and conscious mind. I'm telling you, subconscious mind is such a powerful tool we have, guys, and we don't even realize if we can tap into that. And we do, but a lot of times we don't know how to do it. And we do it all the time without even realizing we're doing it. It actually does it automatically, instinctively, in fact. So, anyways, that's going to tie it up. You should have a late show. Yeah, I know. I'm figuring out as it goes, right? To figure out what's working, what's not working. I think if I did it early Wednesday, it'd probably be because, see, I don't want to put myself in a way that I did last time, where last Friday show when I stayed up, I had to go at 4 o'clock that following morning. So I kind of hiccuped myself, you know. I didn't do myself any good by doing that. So I don't want to follow and repeat that mistake again Wednesday night. But nonetheless, I'll figure it out. And again, this is a great learning curve for me too. Still trying to figure it out. But I know that the response for those that are able to join and chat and stuff is great. It's awesome because I love the commentary. I love the feedback. I love the comments. It's just amazing. It really is. And again, I learn so much, and it makes me think too, you know, and then it gives me that extra thought of ideas, you know, helps me to say, well, you know what? This one said a good point, or this one made a good point, or yeah, that makes sense. And maybe I was thinking something that I didn't understand, and somebody said something, and it kind of, you know, fixed or it corrected that. So it's awesome. I love this stuff. And I thank you guys for participating. I do thank you so much. And listen, guys, Freddie, I know it's probably earlier for you. Yeah, Richard, listen, whatever works where it fits, that it makes sense, is kind of what I'm going to do. You know, I don't really know where it's going at this point. I mean, it's only my third episode. So if it's a late night, then that's what it's going to be, right? If I kind of want to keep it late night, though. I really do, because I like the late night stuff. And the main reason I like that is because depending on what I'm doing, right, the content, if you do it right, you know, and it's not a hyped up talk show where it gets the adrenaline rushing, but it's a calm, smooth, relaxing talk show at that hour. And it can give people something to fall asleep with and think on, but help relax their subconscious, help relax their emotions, their anxiety. That's what I want to do. I want to get to that point where somebody can just hit play and listen to me audibly and hear my voice and just fall asleep to that, you know. I mean, I don't have one of those types of voices where, like, you know, a lot of guys do, but, you know, I think it's okay enough that if I'm doing it right and they're enjoying it, then they can fall asleep to it. You know, we'll see. And then hopefully start getting some calls in and stuff. I think that'd be cool. Live interaction with people. But we'll get there. We'll figure it out. We really will figure it out. Art Bell. No, Art Bell was cool. Yeah, he was. No, Art Bell, yeah. No, he was cool. He was cool. All right, Freddie, Richard, thank you both so much. Wanda, I know she had to go to bed, but thank you as well. And thank you for everybody else out there who may be watching and or listening. I appreciate you. And if I don't see you guys Wednesday night, if you haven't already, don't forget for this Friday, it is Love Songs. Judy and John come up with that theme. Submit your song submission, guys, especially to the other members out there. Again, it's a love song, all right? Hopefully, I think we're going to have a packed house again this Friday. It's probably going to run another 2.5 hours. We've already got quite a lot of submissions, and it's only Monday. So I'm going to guess that we're going to have a full house this Friday, which is cool. So anyways, gentlemen, thank you so much. Both of you have a fantastic night, and I'll see you guys on the next take. Peace out, guys. Have an awesome night.